This is Jim. Jim is concerned with what others think of him. Jim avoids conflict. Jim hides his flaws and mistakes. Jim believes he's different to most men, and that if he just treats a woman right, he'll find the right one for him. Jim has difficulty asking for help and making his needs a priority. Jim represses his true feelings. Opening up might make him vulnerable. What has Jim done wrong? He's not harming anybody, right? Wrong. He is harming himself with his delusional thinking that if he is nice, does what others want of him, and doesn't rock the boat, he'll get his needs met and live a happy life. Jim is living a lie. Jim has a bad case of what Dr. Glover defines as nice guy syndrome. Symptoms include a lack of respect from his peers, being invisible to the opposite sex, and hundreds of hours spent on r/incel. Nice guys are the ones that get friendzoned, the ones who get walked all over, the ones who buy a girl a drink and then listen to her talk about her job before she gets bored and leaves. Mainly, nice guys believe that they just aren't good enough as they are, and they overcompensate in other areas so that they can be liked and feel better about themselves. The root cause of nice guy syndrome is toxic shame, the belief that one is inherently bad, defective, or unlovable. This can often stem from neglect in early childhood, because to a child, abandonment is probably the worst thing that could happen. It means likely death. Therefore, they develop defense mechanisms to avoid abandonment, such as being good, concealing negative parts of their character, and living up to what others want of them. The more they are neglected, the more they feel the need to do this. Nice guys are the ones that haven't escaped from this paradigm formed in childhood, or for whatever reason they've developed this mindset independently. They try to play it safe to avoid rejection. For example, Jim is too scared to be honest and direct about his desires with women because he's so invested in how others perceive him. Female attention is a form of validation for Jim, so he plays it safe by indirectly and covertly trying to win her affection over time. He becomes her most dependable friend, does favors for her, drives her around, and is always there if she needs something. Sometimes he'll be lucky enough to buy her dinner, whilst getting nothing more than an obligatory hug in return. Jim thinks, if I keep being nice to her, she'll have to like me. This is called a covert contract. I will do X for you, so that you will do Y for me. Whilst seemingly nice on the surface, Jim's actions have an ulterior, sexually desperate motive. I will be nice to you, so that you will
lemme smash.
There's nothing wrong with doing something nice for somebody, but doing something nice just to get something in return, that's manipulative. You're not even nice at all, Jim. You had one job. Jim's overcompensation basically cries out, I'm not worth you. So here, hopefully this will make up for it. Jim, this is not going to be a viable panty-dropping strategy, because this isn't what women want. I am a recovering nice guy. I had a girlfriend who I made the centre of my life. Everything I did was to please her and make her as happy with me as possible. One night I told her that she was the best thing in my life. I think I could have stopped mid-sentence to projectile vomit all over her, and she still would have been less disgusted than she was when I uttered those words. See, most women don't want a man who always puts them first. They want a man who is happy in his own life and doesn't rely on another person for happiness. This is inherently masculine and attractive. Jim complains how women always go for the bad boys, but what he doesn't realise is that women don't like bad boys because of the obnoxious things they do, but because they usually have more of a masculine edge about them. They aren't afraid to polarise opinion in the fear of rejection. They aren't dependent on anybody else for validation in who they are. A healthy male is sure enough in himself to not fear retribution, criticism, or judgment just for being himself. He accepts himself as who he is and presents it to the world, saying, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." When a nice guy is on a date, he'll be thinking, what should I say to get her to like me? When a healthy male is on a date, he won't filter what he says or try covert tactics in fear of rejection. His validation comes from within. This is what women want, a headstrong man, not a submissive, pandering, wet, floppy tea towel who would crawl all the way to Mordor just to be lucky enough to give her a foot massage. When Jim's strategy fails at first, he just tries harder because he can't think of any reason why somebody would want to be with him. Such is his self-esteem. Nice guys are stuck in a self-perpetuating cycle of frustration, victimhood, and crusty socks. They must reclaim their masculinity and break out of their nice guy syndrome, and they can do this without resorting to becoming jerks. The first step is to learn to please the person who really matters. Consider this. If you did not care what people thought of you, how would you live your life differently? If you weren't concerned with getting the approval of women, how would your relationships with the opposite sex be different? You are the person whose opinion matters most. Look within for validation instead of looking to other people. Are you happy with who you are by your own standards? Ask yourself, does this feel right to me? What would make me happy? If you aren't happy with yourself or your situation, what changes would you like to make? How could you break those changes down into incremental improvements that you can start to do today? Have some self-worth. You are the only person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Nobody else should ever take precedence over you, so put yourself first. As recovering nice guys realize that they do have value, they see that they don't have to hide their flaws or mistakes all the time, and in doing this, they attract more genuine relationships. After all, isn't it best in the long run that you have people around you that like you for who you are, not some facade you put on to please others? Consider being your true, uninhibited self a filtration process for keeping only those that you really want in your life. Set boundaries. Nice guys have difficulty saying no or stop. Setting boundaries allows for nice guys to reclaim their personal power and not feel like helpless victims. Dr. Glover says that teaching boundary setting is one of the most fundamental skills that nice guys can learn. Do you say yes when sometimes you mean no? Do you ever sacrifice yourself to keep the peace, or not ask for what you want? It's better to just say when you aren't happy with something, because not only does this give the other person a chance to change their behaviour, it stops you bottling it all up in a state of passive-aggressive bitchiness. Dr. Glover advises using the second date rule, which is when you ask yourself, if this behaviour happened on the second date, would there be a third? If the answer is no, it's unacceptable behaviour to you, and you should speak up. It might surprise you, but women actually like it when you set boundaries. If you can't stand up to her, how is she supposed to think that you can stand up to the world? It makes her feel safe knowing that you can't be bossed around. So, let people know where you stand and have some integrity. If your needs are not met, then be ready to walk away and find someone more suitable. Have male role models. Having a good network of male friends is one of the best things you can do whilst in a relationship or just dating. If a man has a safety net of buddies, he will get many of his emotional needs met with them and be less needy, reactive, and approval-seeking in his relationships with women. So, connect with other guys you can look up to and depend on to tell you that you're being needy when you're thinking of texting her for the 79th time in 2 days. Get some male role models and observe how they live their lives. Ask yourself what your own definition of a healthy male is, and use that as a reference point whenever you face a conflict or have a decision to make. What would a healthy male do in this situation? Just asking this question connects you with your intuitive wisdom and helps you respond appropriately. Asking this question and doing it makes you a man of integrity. Surrender. Surrendering means letting go of what one can't change and taking control of what can. Surrendering allows recovering nice guys to see each life experience as a gift from the universe to stimulate growth, healing, and learning. Instead of playing the victim and crying out, "Why is this happening to me?" you can respond by pondering, "What do I need to learn from this? How can I improve?" Think about one gift from the universe which you initially resisted but turned out to be a positive stimulus for growth. Are there any similar potential gifts right now which you need to surrender to? Let it go. Let life happen. It's time in your life to start putting yourself first and make your own needs a priority. Don't be afraid to be your authentic self. Embrace the possibility of rejection and disapproval. Stand up for what you believe is right. Surrender to what you can't change and take control of what you can. As a side effect, you'll find that you earn more respect, build stronger relationships, and allow yourself to create the kind of life that you really want. This is Jim 2.0. Since discovering this book, Jim started to treat his nice guy syndrome. Jim now has a strong sense of self. He likes himself just as he is. Jim is not afraid of conflict. Jim has integrity. He does what is right for him. Jim is clear, direct, and expressive of his feelings. Jim can be nurturing and giving without any ulterior motives. Jim is accepting of his flaws and imperfections. Jim is who he is, without reservation. The people who like that will hang around. The people who don't, won't. And Jim is cool with that. Nice one, Jim.